These are the instructions for Workplace 3E Division Showdown. Each pair of players needs a 3E Division Showdown starter sheet to share, a 3E Division Showdown Continuation Sheet 8 to share, a 3E Division Showdown Continuation Sheet B to share, one spinner overlay, one red and one blue colored pencil or marker. Players will record their names at the top of the starter sheet and decide which player goes first. So here I know my screen is a little bit funny looking, but I have completed a game and covered up part of it so I could show it to you a little bit quicker. So as you can see, the player has spun each spinner, and our dividend ended up being 329. Our divisor is 12. So our division problem is 329 divided by 12. The first player is going to record in their color of marker or pencil a rectangle that is 10 times the divisor. So in our case, it would be 10 times 12. So if you look here on our grid, we are going to make a rectangle that is 10 units wide, and then whatever the divisor is, that many units long. So for us, 10 units wide and 12 units long, for a total of 120. So we would have 120 little squares inside this rectangle we just made. Now, this may sound like a funny way to start a division problem, but hang in there. I think you're going to see the connection. The next thing that player will do is they will start with their 329 and they will subtract the number of units that were just made in this rectangle over here. So in our case, we're going to subtract 120. So that's the next thing you see here. And then I've made a little note out to the side that it's 120 because it's 10 groups of 12. And we subtract, and we have 209. So if we have 209, then that means we could do another 120, and that's exactly what the next player is going to do. So this player, I have this player using red here on the grid. So they make another rectangle that is 10 by 12, just like this first one, except they're using their own color. We know that a 10 by 12 is, again, 120 square units. So once again, this player is going to come over here and subtract 120 from what was remaining before, which was 209. So as we do that subtraction, we get 89. Now, because we're sitting at 89, and it goes back to the blue player's turn, they have to think about, they're not going to be able to do another 120 because we don't have 120 left here. We have less than 120 left here. So what they've got to do now is try to think about, well, how many 12s could I use to try to use up my 89 that I have here? Or in other words, I'm going to draw a rectangle that's as close to 89 as I can, but one dimension of that rectangle is 12. So in other words, how many 12s can I think about that would go into 89? The goal in this game is to be the last person to make a move. So if I'm going to do that, I want to put in as many 12s as possible. So the red player, we look here, or the blue player, excuse me, the blue player decided to put in 7 12s. So we made our rectangle this time 7 by 12. And then we had to think about how many little squares were in here. I broke mine up and showed you 70 because this would be a 7 by 10. And then I counted off 10 little squares here. And then I had 4 left over just to show that this is 84. If you like, you can just put an 84 in here. So take your pick on that. All right, so 84, so that means we're going to subtract 84 over here. So the blue player subtracts 84 and has a remainder of 5. Well, that turned out really well. You know, if you have a remainder that is less than your divisor, then that's as far as you can go. So the blue player, this blue player was the last player to play. That means they're going to get all the points. But we're not quite through yet. Since we had a remainder of 5, we're going to put 5 little X's on our grid, as you can see here. I know it's kind of tiny, but those are just X's in 5 of the little squares. And we're going to record the answer over here to the division problem. So that's what I have here. Now, I decided to use a fraction as my remainder. You could have also used the R and a 5 if you wanted to, or you could have even had a decimal remainder. But for what we're going to do now, this is going to work just as well. So what we want to do is we're going to, it says multiply to double check the answer. So we're saying that there are 27, and I'm getting that from right here. See where I'm circling? 27 12s will fit into 329. So I had to multiply 27 times 12. I'll notice here I get an 84, which is exactly what this rectangle was here. And then I get a 240, which is these two together right here. So I like to make connections like that. And then when we added those together, we got 324. But don't forget, you've got to add on the remainder too to make the 329. You want to make sure it works that way so you'll know that your answer was correct. So now the blue player gets 5 points. So that's the deal. If you're the last player, you get the number of points that is your remainder. If you don't have a remainder, you still get 1 point. And then you can keep on playing more rounds. And so the object would be to get the most points. You want to be that first player that goes out, or finishes the problem so that you can get the points. And that is how you play Division Showdown.